how did you know, Stephen, that you had something to say to add to the design dialogue that you were seeing around us?
I guess I didn't know. Well, until I knew. I tried a lot of things for a long time, and a lot of those things didn't work out. Kind of, fell flat. And I've always thought like the best thing about like, my ability is to just like, get knocked down and like try again and be stubborn enough to keep trying things. But yeah, there's been a lot of phases. If you could see the like camera phone accessory thing that like paid my bills for a little while against this like cast bronze mirror that's hanging in a beautiful gallery, it would, it's surprising, but I knew for my whole life that I was an artist and I loved drawing and I loved creating things, and this is where I felt the most just focused and uh, productive. And although like way back in the day, I had no idea what that meant. And it wasn't until like long after, you know, college and grad school and a million jobs and trying this and that and doing things that kind of get me closer and closer and closer that I ended up kind of settling into um, a practice and started to build a studio around, this type of work, which was really well suited to me, and I came to very naturally, which was just to tinker and experiment with materials and invent new processes, and in order to get original results. And whether it's the bronze work, ice cast bronze, or my other resin bonded sand work, it's all kind of working with process and like digging into the materials and the methods and um, just inventing.
Stephen, what did you study at grad school? I don't remember.
My grad program was called Designed Objects, so it was
Okay.
sort of a conceptual kind of open-ended design design program. It was kind of the Wild West when I got there. It was the second year of the program, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and
Okay.
yeah, I think it was loosely based on like an Eindhoven or a Royal College of Art. A lot about, creating objects and storytelling, and as opposed to just like form and function and those sort of like classic ideas of like product design and things like that. Um, it was just more open and experimental.
So you weren't learning how to do anything other than how to experiment.
Yeah. Well,
Like
I
they
came
weren't
from a
teaching
background.
you how to use these materials that at least we
No,
associate you with.
I think everybody was kind of on their own path.
Okay.
And
So you
oh,
were in school with architects.
architects and painters and product designer types, and yeah, everybody was kind of together. And um, yeah, I came from a background in sculpture, so I was learning,
Okay.
like more typical processes and tools, and I liked, building things. Um, and then uh, I think grad school for me was about figuring out what I have to say, as opposed to like how technically advanced I am, or what my capabilities are. Um,
What did
yeah,
you think you
so
had to say then versus what you think you're saying now?
back then, I actually applied to this program, as a sculptor. I thought it was sort of, I was applying to sculpture programs all over the country when I was wanting to go to grad school, and I
Uh-huh.
got rejected everywhere.
Yeah.
Seven schools, and this is like
Good
Pratt
for
and
you.
Parsons and CCA and Virginia Commonwealth and, SAIC and Cranbrook. I got waitlisted in Chicago and I got waitlisted in Cranbrook. And I was like, I want to get as far away from home as I can, and I want to like move to the city. And so I made it to Chicago and kind of talked my way in.
Uh-huh.
And back then I thought, I didn't know what designed objects was, but I was like, that sounds, close to a sculpture. It sounds like
Kind of,
making
yeah, yeah,
something.
adjacent.
So
What year is this, Stephen? I mean, I don't want to reveal a gentleman's age, but I mean, I think education has changed so much in my lifetime.
yeah, this is 2000. I think I started school in 2004, grad school.
Okay, so we're over 20 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. Um,
You look great, by the way. You're not, you
I
would
just
never have
turned
guessed. I'm shocked.
46.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, back then I thought I wanted to be a furniture designer, like I thought I wanted to design like and back then I had this idea about like licensing design work, and a lot of the people that I was in school with had the same idea, like they were gonna make drawings and like sell them to some company, and then they were gonna like produce and distribute, and it was like, and then
And
the
they'll just go
check
live on
shows
the
up in the
beach
mailbox.
and yeah, I know
Yeah.
making money in
um
design is never as easy as anyone wants it to be.
yeah, I've gotten that to work a couple times, and the other like 10 sort of just fell flat.
Yeah.
But that's a hard thing to do.
So you have this career, this educational background, and then so your creativity was your livelihood right from the beginning. Um, you never thought of doing anything else.
I mean, I always had a job, and I was always doing my job, my real work, my work on the side of those jobs.
Hmm.
And I wanted to get to a point where, that work was paying the bills. So, and like each step was sort of in the right direction. I got a little bit closer to the goal. You did end up being a furniture designer for a little while at Holly Hunt for
Anything
two and a
good?
half years. Was that?
Anything good?
Some of
Any
it's still in
pieces we should know
production.
about?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. That's
I mean,
great.
my one design license, and this is post me leaving Holly Hunt, this is 2014. I licensed a table called the Formations table. It's a big
Hmm.
metal kind of faceted table with a bronze glass
Yeah.
top.
Uh-huh.
That one's been selling ever since. And some of the pieces, well, I designed while in the studio, are still in production. And so,
All through Holly Hunt.
yeah, all through
Yeah.
Holly, except the table was the license piece.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you then we know you for, and we'll get to this point, hot wax, frozen water, which we call ice,
Uh,
molten bronze. Like, was there something about these kind of extreme, state changing materials that you were drawn to, or how did you end up
well,
with ice cast bronze?
I was doing a lot of work, like I said, on the side of various jobs. So while working at Holly Hunt, I shared a studio down in Pilsen in Chicago with a bunch of friends, and it was a lot of, experimental stuff. At one point, we got asked to do a small show at the Museum of Contemporary Art where we made a balloon factory, and we just like figured out how to make our own balloons and the equipment to produce this stuff. And
All right.
it was up for a little while. And, so it was just
Misspent
like,
use. How much
I
money
did
did
get
you
in
make on the balloon making venture?
$0, but
$0. Yeah, negative.
I did get to meet like Wayne Coyne from the
We have that
Flaming Lips.
handicap. The flaming lips. Okay.
Yeah, front man for the Flaming Lips. I mean, yeah, so we were doing this balloon factory. Can I go turn my compressor off?
You can
Can
do
you hear
whatever you
that?
want, Steven.
Is that a problem?
I don't hear, but if it's bothering you, you turn it off. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, but I just wondered if it was too loud. But anyways, so yeah, did this balloon factory. This guy wanders in, and he looks just like a rock star. I mean, I had no idea who he was. It was just like hair. He had this like suit that he looked like he slept in, and
Uh-huh.
you know. We're like, who's that guy? And somebody knew, somebody was a big fan of the Flaming Lips, and like, that's Wayne Coyne. So we talked to him, and there was a moment where he was going to invite us to recreate this thing in his gallery in like Oklahoma City or something. Or I can't remember where it
Uh-huh.
was, but other than that, it was just good fun. And at the at the museum and do the experience. And
Well, you keep creating,
but
right? Like that's
yeah,
like keep scratching the itch, the
right.
creative itch.
And the bronze work didn't happen until, I had just been let go from Holly Hunt. This is end of 2010, and a friend
Mm,
of mine
yeah.
had kind of bought into a foundry, and so I had, a bunch of time on my hands all of a sudden, and I got to kind of show up, and I had, designed for the bronze process before, more like typical stuff, but I got to just experiment with wax, which is like the cheap part of the whole process. Before you get into the bronze, the lost wax
Hmm.
process is like make something out of wax, and um, you know, through several steps, you can, make that same thing in bronze. So it started to, I just was experimenting with wax, and this was, I think, 2 or 3 in the morning, and it was the first year that we had a polar vortex. That year that it was like negative 14 degrees for a couple weeks at a time, and
Yeah.
um, so just this one experiment, I took some hot wax and I poured it into a frozen puddle outside the studio, and it made this gross looking little puck of hardened wax. But the temperature shock with the hot wax against the cold ice created this very otherworldly texture, or something that was I don't know, just really unique. And it just that little experiment led me to think about the next, 10 experiments that I would try. And, so then it became like dialing in temperatures of
Well,
wax and
sorry,
ice.
Stephen,
And
but when you picked up the first piece of wax, and you described it as otherworldly, but did you think, aha, like this is great? Like what? Because what I'm hearing is this thread of experimentation. Fine, we hear that a lot, but what is it about you that like is your reaction to all of these experiments, the balloon factory, the ugly piece of wax, not ugly, but otherworldly? What?
it was ugly. It looked like a turd.
But then that you're not like, but how do you feel in that moment? What goes on in your mind?
Never been for me like a design build kind of thing, like make a drawing and then figure out how to make that. It's kind of like figure out how to make a thing, and learn as much as I can about a method of production, and then try to understand like what could be created using this like new system.
Oh, right. So
So
you're more like an untethered mad scientist. It's like come up with any possible reaction and then hope it makes something we like.
yeah. So I mean, it started outside in a puddle,
Yeah.
but then my
I
immediate
think we
thought
have
was
pictures
like,
of this, Philip. Maybe we can move on to some. We've got some.
yeah,
There we go.
there we go. This is
This
probably
is you.
10 years after that first little experiment. And
Okay. And now you're
um
in Greenland. Like, where are you?
this is northern Michigan, so this is Lake Charlevoix,
Uh-huh.
and which is the place that I've been like 46 summers every single year of my life. And my family goes up there camping every year. We'll be there again in August, and I don't usually go there in the winter, but I did go there in the winter. I know that it freezes over solid, and there's ice fishermen, and it's a huge
Uh-huh.
lake, and you can walk all the way, skate all the way across it,
Wow.
and it's really, really amazing. So,
Were you at risk of
um,
weakening the ice by pouring hot wax on it?
no. No, right where I
Okay.
was standing was like not far off the shore.
Uh-huh.
And while I was sitting there with all this like equipment, and I made sort of a mobile studio to drag out there, and I'm heating like waxes, and people are walking by, and like what is going on here?
Yeah.
And one ice
This
fisherman I
country
talked
is
to was
going to
like,
shit. What are these kids doing these days? We had real jobs when yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Well, that
but
is one of my questions, Stephen. I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to, you said this, I want to pull this thread. Like, how have
Mhm.
you navigated the physical logistics of a process dependent on winter forces and, you know, these heat and cold? Like, these aren't things that you can just create easily, I imagine, anywhere. So how has this informed your life since stumbling
Yeah.
into pouring wax on ice?
The original idea and when I started to actually kind of formulate objects from this process, I started to think about, maybe I could have a studio that's seasonal or something. So like
Hmm.
it's interesting to me that like the opportunity for work like this to be what it
Mm.
is, like kind of
It's,
comes in with the season and with the climate and my environment and my location. It started to feel
yeah.
like very, it's personal and um and started to think about that a lot. It's not a really realistic idea. I mean, people want what they want when they want it, and
It's
so
romantic. I
I
like it.
bought
Seasonal,
yeah.
temporal, bronze mirrors.
I mean,
Only
maybe
it's like
someday.
rarefied just by the pure nature of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I bought a chest freezer, off of Craigslist or something. And
Hmm.
then, I bought like a big chest freezer, which I still have and
I've
use.
seen these freezers, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I think more recently I discovered that, going outdoors is just a really nice part of the story of this work. And it kind of
Mm.
makes each piece sort of like a timestamp of that a specific time and place and environment. And I can kind of like pick up that piece and recreate it in a material like bronze, which is, totally permanent. So kind of dealing with these ideas of, temporary and permanence and yeah,
Yeah,
just
there's
using
some
the
DNA from that piece of ice, from that day, from that body of water embedded
right,
in that mold that
right.
isn't replicable. Okay.
Yeah. I have that
It's kind
piece.
of
It's on my
absurd.
wall at home.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
on
I mean
message.
it's not a really, if it's not a great way to design things or, clearly it wasn't about like making the margins better and,
Yeah.
more efficient and but it's I don't know, it's just super satisfying to pull that piece off the ice. It's kind of like this loose framework of a process that I've created and start, and then nature and the environment kind of helps me finish it. And I love that idea too. It's sort of like this collaborative effort.
There's a push and pull between you and the ice. I mean, the what it sounds like what you're putting into a lot of your work is the willingness to be experimental, the willingness to not be deterred if the
Yeah.
first result or even the end result, you as a person, and I know this because I know this about you, but are you're like a relentless optimist in a way, maybe more pragmatist, but in terms of your work, you're kind of, nothing gets you down. You're like always pushing forward on it. And that I think allows you to be so experimental because not everyone is up for the constant, not even reject, you're not even necessarily showing these things outside of your own studio, but, keep trying and trying and trying. Uh, but for you, the point is the trying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel really comfortable with uh, in that environment with these, even like the so-called like failures within the process. And often, especially early on, nowadays I kind of know what the results are going to be based on, how I'm pouring this and at what temperature and whatever. But,
Hmm.
some of the first results are, kind of gross. And but even like the kind of failures or whatever you want to call them were more informative than something that just kind of magically was beautiful, and I didn't know why and didn't know how to like replicate. So, kind of, making pieces and then scrapping them, and just trying over and over and over again, is how you really learn your way around a process and how to hone it and control it. And within this process, like be able to not control parts of it, which is like the best part. I mean, I've produced these vessels and have
Yeah, we've got
wax
some of those too.
slip into a like a crack or something. It becomes this like mushroom, which ends up being the best part of the piece. It's something I never could have designed. It just is something that happens, and I try to make space in the process for those things to just happen.
Yeah, spontaneity.
Yeah,
We talk about that in our work. Like, we don't want to choose every single item in the house before
yeah,
it's done. You need some amount of spontaneity at the end of a project. But you're really talking about chemical, physical reactions between man and nature,
yeah.
and not accepting that there are some elements to creating beauty that only nature can do, and you like leaving nature some percentage of your process to
Right.
to do that. So, what came first, the vase, vase, or the mirror? And then, have you always just been trying to go bigger, or what? Who leads you into the next object?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. The
Decorators,
work.
your wife?
Um, I guess all of the above.
Yeah.
The thing about like the bronze process is that it is very expensive. Like every part of the material, the labor involved on the front end, and then you're also dealing with a foundry who has, all this infrastructure to create these pieces and
Well, good
a long
point. Your
timeline of their
studio
own.
can do only so much of this, but the product itself finishes in somebody else's foundry.
Yeah, yeah, or at least it is cast. So, at certain points I've done, everything in the front end of this, meaning like make these waxes, do my whole ice thing, even like pull molds off of pieces so that I can recreate that wax if it's something that is going to be an addition. But then, I'm taking a wax to a foundry, they're attaching sprues and gates and things and dipping it in a ceramic
Hmm.
slurry over and over again, and then burning the wax out, firing the shell, pouring the bronze in, and then so this is like the more typical lost wax process. But yeah, I don't have a foundry. It's I would love to. It's just sort of I need four times the space and
Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, I work with a foundry. Usually they're giving me back raw bronze, and I'm uh, processing the metal and getting it to a certain finish and putting patina on and stuff like that. So it's kind of everything on the front end, everything on the back end, and the red hot crucible is yeah their part.
So it leaves and comes back. It's a boomerang
Yeah.
process.
Mhm.
Um, so we have these mirrors and these kind of like these two pieces became kind of iconic for you.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? What made these pieces connect with the eye of collectors or just anyone?
Um, I think well the vessels came first. So
Okay.
on the in this one picture, this is ice cast bronze vessel number one. That was the name. That's the name of it.
Okay.
And the idea came
Firstborn.
from, yeah, the idea came from, well, it's the first edition. I made several smaller, weirder pieces, but I had this idea to create a snowball in the backyard, as you do, and then I hollowed out and pour wax on the inside, roll the snowball, and see if I could make the wax do a rotation, freezing along the way.
Oh, it's
And
like
you
clay.
know,
Like putting clay on a. Okay.
yeah. So, I did that. It didn't work so well the first time. This one was made sort of a Rubbermaid trash bin filled with ice in my freezer, which I would pull out, hollow out the center, pour the wax in there, roll it on the table very slowly. So it's kind of solidifying along the way, and you get this like long vertical texture, which is just like more dramatic. It's more open texture, and provided more place to like patina and polish up certain parts and things like that. That piece is about 22, 22 inches high.
So while you're doing
And
this, there's not an internal voice or an external voice around you telling you that what you're doing is kind of bizarrely unusual and maybe like you should be doing something more productive with your life. I mean, what goes on when you're
yeah,
digging through rubber trash cans with wet wax?
I didn't know too much more than, this was interesting. And I thought that, if I could push this to some, level of finish, I could probably find somebody who was interested enough to sell it or, you know, buy it. The first pieces, the smaller ones that were made a little bit differently, went to Holly Hunt.
Hmm.
And they sold the first like batch of like 10 small ones. And I guess, not this must have been, you know, 3 or 4 years after leaving Holly that, they started purchasing things from me again and um kind of worked with them on and off ever since. And then I got
Which,
eventually,
not to interrupt, but that does mean, it is important to know that, you came through your graduate program studying sculpture or, design objects, but you had an understanding somewhat of how people make products that can be sold, which isn't nothing if you're going to
yeah,
take off into the world and start thinking that you can make a living
yeah,
designing with ice and wax.
yeah. I think at the same time I was doing this work, I was producing a collection of my own furniture. This was like a lot older idea I had. Like after working at Holly Hunt, I really enjoyed my time there. I got to know all the like wood shops and upholstery shops and metal
Hmm.
places in Chicago. And um, I, my plan from a long time ago was to like own my own studio, be my own boss, call my own shots. And
Yeah, how's that going?
it's going well now, but
Yeah, yeah,
it
I think
only
it is. I think it
it only
is.
took 15 15 years of, circling the drain to,
Yeah.
to
How
get
many
to that point. But
studios? I've seen two, maybe three, I think.
yeah, this is the third one I moved into in like 3 years. So that was a tough time, coming through the
Hmm.
pandemic and,
Yeah.
moving around. And then we finally relocated from Chicago after 20 years to my hometown, Kalamazoo, Michigan. So,
So you
but
are keep moving. You do keep moving north to like chase the snow and the ice.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Actually, like Chicago and Kalamazoo are like,
Are
very
they?
much on the
Oh
same
no,
same
now you
climate,
just
although like on this side of like we get all this like lake effect snow. So we just get, the same cold but just like dumped with snow, which is great. I love it.
how does Frank feel about the snow? Your son?
Yeah, yeah, he's pretty into it. Yeah,
Yeah,
we do lots of outdoor activities. I'm gonna wait till he gets a little older before I like make him my full-on, studio assistant and snowball roller.
yeah. He can't. He's not
But
old enough to handle the hot wax yet.
he loves handling the hot wax.
Yeah.
I mean, I bring him into the studio and the wax is his favorite. He likes with a lot of monitoring, loves the torch and likes to watch the torch
Dad,
melt the wax. And
I won't tell mom. Wow. Okay.
I mean, he's
Um,
6. He's the,
he's fine. He's fine. He's 6 years old. But your wife is an interior designer.
Mhm.
You does Frank have any chance of escaping this life that we live, or is he
No,
is he entrenched in it,
not
or
a
is he
chance.
not a chance? Okay.
No, he's I want him to do whatever he wants, but I know I can already tell that he's good at drawing. He can
Hmm.
where I mean typical 6-year old that it's hard to keep them focused on things and I was the same way, but
You
like
said
I
typical
can
26-year-old. Is that what you said?
well, I'm a 46-year-old and I have
Yeah.
a real hard time concentrating on anything.
Yeah.
But I can get my hands on materials or get into a drawing and I can kind of, lose 8 hours and just go on it. And I see that in him too. I can see that he kind of like really gets into he's very detail oriented and very coordinated and he likes to draw. So who knows? But
That's neat. That's very neat.
yeah.
So far, the tools you've given him are the pen and the torch.
Yeah.
So,
The I mean yeah, eventually when he isn't such a liability, I'll bring him into the studio a little bit more.
Hmm.
And but I think I could see him kind of getting into it. We do projects at home too. We make things out of cardboard and tape, and we try to do
That's
stuff like
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
We finally have like a whole backyard and like very small but like wooded area, and there's sticks and rocks and lots to play with. So
That's what all of my childhood memories are too, right? Like being outdoors, and then
yeah,
I had like a craft drawer that my mother had set up for me where, just at any moment you could go in and just sort of like make anything. Boredom is such a key part of the creative process, right? Like
yeah,
you said,
yeah.
like 8 hours of just getting lost. Um,
Hmm.
I think we're not bored often enough now with our access to endless information.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd throw my phone in the lake and leave it there if I didn't have to use it for work.
Hmm.
It's
If
such
I
a,
wasn't texting you to do Zoom chats, yeah.
but yeah, it's funny that you mentioned like that childhood. I moved onto my childhood street. I never thought I would be this guy, but like I live like six houses down and across the street from my parents now, which is great for like babysitting and things like that when
Yeah.
needed. But like when I'm working on these bronze pieces and rolling snowballs in the backyard to produce weird wax things and like I think about like my time growing up on this street, and one thing we did was like take a 2x4 and stick it to a board and you stamp the snow down. I don't know if people do this anywhere outside of like the Midwest, but and then you put a
Was that a
sprinkler out
game? Oh,
in the
okay, okay. I'll
yard,
let you
and
finish.
it's like a backyard skating rink kind of thing. So you
Okay.
stamp the snow down flat, water it down and make ice and then go ice skating. So, but I've kind of pulled
That
in
feels
some
like a
of those.
direct connection to your
Yeah, I
work,
mean,
Stephen.
my former studio where I had a flat roof outside, I did this. I'd stomp the snow down and I, iced it over, and then I would pour out there on the roof. And so it's like that sort of childhood, just fun experimentation, building snow forts and snowballs and things kind of like comes into play. And it was kind of I was already learning, some things that informed this process today, and I find that's why I don't know. This is just it's my favorite work, and
Yeah, it's
and
coded
it
in you.
continues to be
You
just
you
like a
have
fun experiment.
hmm you have like a strong relationship with the season, the the product of the season, the ice and the snow. You're
Hmm.
just used to being in it. Your creative mind has been playing with it your
Right.
whole life. It's different from those of us that are from warmer climates.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even want to work in the snow. Like, stay away. Well, Stephen, before we wrap up, tell me, let's look at some of these photos of your more recent pieces that I, find to be so beautiful.
Yeah.
And what are you doing now? Um, where do you see your work going from here?
Um, yeah, we're working on a bunch of different things, and I have probably more sketchbooks filled with drawings that I'll ever get through in life. But we've been doing a lot of what I call like Ice Cast Broad's kudzu pieces, which
Hmm.
are I moved down to Atlanta for a short period of time, and this was like just previous to my time at Holly Hunt and for a job, and I almost stayed down there, which would have been interesting because this work never would have happened.
Yeah,
But
less snow.
yeah, kudzu or kudzu, I guess it's called. I would drive past these landscapes in Atlanta. It was like solid green, and it's an invasive vine species that just sort of grows really quickly and overtakes anything in its path. And so you could see like a barn or a truck or something that had been overtaken. And these vines sort of take its form and but just like completely cover everything. And after coming back and then after getting into this, that became kind of just kind of like the basis of an idea. It was just about like creating these small elements, these kind of petal-like forms which kind of meet together,
Hmm.
and casting small pieces and then being able to, build a bunch of stock and then build those small elements into any scale. So it
Okay,
was
so some
about
of the other
like,
pieces were cast as a full piece
yeah,
or more like one pour. But this
right,
is now modular, what you're
right,
doing.
right, right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, the first mirror frames were poured on the rooftop and they were just poured like this. Like I'm going to pour a mirror
A
frame
big
and it's going to
ring.
go in a circle like this. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, when I wanted to produce more ambitious pieces. And when you get to know the process of casting bronze, there's some, constraints with regard to like how big this mold can be. And like large flat pieces are the most difficult pieces to cast because, especially in like this type of shell that we're using, because the center wants to blow out. And anyways, I devised this way to make small parts in order to make giant pieces. And last year we produced like a 9 foot tall
I
sculptural
saw that. Yeah.
tower out of it was kind of like this lighting piece here. It had a green patina and everything, but just sort of a lattice of bronze, all textured. And
Where did it go? It's a sculptural piece of art.
yeah, I went to a home in Texas, I think in
Hmm.
Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I saw some beautiful photos. Um,
Yeah, so
so
we're
then,
we're
so
working
then
on,
size is no
yeah.
limit. Then that's the idea.
Right.
Wh-
Right. Now it's just about like finding, I can't just make this work. It's kind of like I need to find somebody to fund this process. The production is um, it's a lot. So um you can't just like make a massive piece like that and hope it sells. And
No, it's on
um
commission. That's right.
right. Yeah, so everything we produce is pretty much on commission. Most of the time people come to me and they've seen something and they say, could you do something like this, but make it, this scale, or I like very open-ended kind of vague uh,
Mm.
requests for proposals. And I'm often sketching things for people, usually by hand, and kind of working like that. So
Do you live with any of your own work, Stephen?
I try not to live with too much of it. I do have the mirror that I was pouring on Lake Charlevoix up there, which is called the Charlevoix mirror. That's on my wall, but I just don't want my home space to be like a museum dedicated to myself. But
Yeah.
I also like to trade my work for. I mean, I have a lot of friends that produce amazing things, and so I've
Hmm.
traded pieces with them, and I have a great collection, and I could talk about them. And but yeah,
And mom, does
a
does
few
your mom
pieces.
have your work all over the walls?
She's got a few things, smaller things. Some of it,
Good.
she's like, I love that, but you know,
I don't.
it's not in my living room.
Not in my living
Uh,
room. Yeah. Well done, son. Well done.
mm,
Well, Stephen, this is really fun. Thank you for doing
yeah.
this today. Is there anything else you want to put out in the world? Philip may or may not make it in our final cut. Anything we
Um,
missed?
uh, I don't know. I guess just with regard to like the work that I'm hoping to create. I've been thinking a lot about like, architectural pieces that are intrinsic to the architecture of a space. So like, built in, like the fireplace is something I've been thinking about a lot, like a mantle or, a full surround or, a room
Hmm.
divider or a gate, outdoor
Oh, a
pieces.
gate would be great.
I've had these drawings of spiral staircase banisters that are all this sort of lattice of textured bronze and things like that. So yeah, I'm always trying to figure out how to, you know, be ambitious with the scale and the type of work. And
I mean, I can imagine like a Dior store in Paris with a giant curving stairrail of this, right? I mean, that's where in my
yeah,
next life I would buy a wedding dress, like walking down that. Well, I think that'll happen. You just put it out there, Steven.
I think you can make it happen.
I think I can too. I
You're
think
just
I
the
can
guy to
too.
do it.
Hmm. I'm ready. All right. Well, all right, Stephen.
All
Thank you
right.
so much for doing this.
Yeah, it's fun. Thanks.